Hello, welcome to Aqua Retail Lockdown video series. Apparently it's a veritable series now. Thanks ever so much for all the lovely comments I've had, all the lovely emails. It's certainly good to know that I'm not just sort of waffling into a black hole and that what I'm saying is offering value to you at the moment. So welcome once again. I thought today we'd talk about the role of the multi-channel merchandiser. Now, multi-channel is obviously a fairly new term. Merchandising is not, but merchandising has come on so much over the years. What used to be the role of a human abacus that would sit there at the desk next to the buyer, subserviently just processing everything onto spreadsheets, has changed. The relationship between the buyer and the merchandiser is so much more balanced now. And the role of the merchandiser is one which can take all sorts of different avenues depending on what you fancy. So those are those multi-channel pieces that I thought I'd talk about today. So starting off with e-com merchandising. The internet, who thought that would catch on? Absolutely incredible the way that it's become so much part of our lives, and certainly at the moment while we're on lockdown, a total lifesaver. An internet merchandiser is somebody who is effectively, and this is what someone said to me once back in the days of the infancy of it, effectively sitting as a security guard watching people walk around the store on the video camera. And I thought, that makes sense. She says, that's what you're doing while you're watching people as they're going through the various pages within the website. You're able to see as they turn in different directions. Oh, you might like this, or you like that dress, what about these shoes? And I think it's fascinating to look at it that way and to see just how you can mould the customer journey. When a website is good, it can really pull you in and get you spending. An internet merchandiser liaises with so many different parts of the business. They're liaising with marketing, with IT, with the buying people, with the digi people, and of course, with the core merchandising team as well, to make sure that they're absolutely capitalising on any sale possible. They work very quickly. Of course, if you want to implement a change in the stores, there are layers you need to go through to get the area managers, to do the store managers, to get the memos out to the stores, to make sure that those tickets are going on the items saying, buy one, get one free or 3 for 2. You can put that out on a flick of a switch if you're an internet merchandiser. And the lovely thing is, of course, you can put it out, and then if you realise you've done a boo-boo, you can flick it back round again if it hasn't worked. But most satisfyingly, you can see the results of your suggestions and your ways of maximising profit really, really fast. The next one is international merchandising. Now, international merch is another one which has grown, as over the last decade, a lot of UK retailers have looked at their store portfolios in this country and said, not quite sure we're really making the money we should be making. They've looked at different countries and at that point have managed to make all sorts of extra fans, therefore money, elsewhere. So many exciting nuances going on with international merchandising. Of course, if you're selling something in the UK in the summer, you can't sell that in Australia because it's winter. So you're going to have different ranges depending on which weather you're looking after. There are countries where religion's a big factor. So for example, you can't sell something with skulls and crucifixes on in Spain because they're very religious. And there's all sorts of things like that. And a really good international merchandiser really understands what the demands of their individual countries would be. Therefore, they're the ones that every retailer wants to employ. Similar to international merchandising is branch merchandising. Now, it's similar in as much as international, you're looking after countries, but for a branch merchandiser, you're looking after regions and towns. And again, a talented branch merchandiser really understands the needs of those individual towns. For example, you're going to sell more ball gowns if you've got a store in Oxford or Cambridge because of all the balls. Again, the weather is a factor. You're going to sell more scarves and gloves in Scotland, more flip-flops in Cornwall. And there's all sorts of socio-economic pieces that come in as well. So for example, colour is pretty big in the north of England. Muted colour palettes, more the thing in the south of England. There's also size bias which kicks in. Central big cosmopolitan cities more likely to sell the smaller sizes, whereas in regions more likely to sell the larger sizes. So again, all these things are really interesting about branch merchandising. They're responsible for looking at the gradings of the stores, establishing what's going to sell, setting up those initial stock packages to make sure that the shop can start off on the right level footing. So they're the three main ones. There's all sorts of other ones that we could talk about, but we've obviously all got things to do right now. Lockdown joke. Off-price or outlet merchandising is another biggie, and one which is, I think, gaining pace year on year at the moment, particularly as people control their personal finances in different ways and really want to get that kind of bargain. Non-fashion merchandising is another really interesting subject, not least because it used to be something that was more continuity line based and kind of the dull version, whereas these days there's so much more fashionability to homewares, colours coming through, materials coming through, and there are trends. So those kind of non-fashion fashion merchandising roles, much bigger news than they ever used to be. And then there's a difference between fast-paced value merchandising and luxury merchandising, two very different worlds. One potentially selling 3 items per minute, one potentially selling 3 items per week. Very different skill sets. One might be looking after a turnover of 200 million and some eye-watering levels of SKUs. One might be doing 200 million, but with far fewer SKUs. Both have their own complexities, but probably one wouldn't switch into the other. You'd have a hard time, I think, if you tried to move between luxury and value, and you'd be bored in one and probably just out of your depth in the other. So yes, lots and lots of different factors to think about when you're looking at where you want your merchandising career to go. I would say that the merchandising directors and managing directors of the future are not people who are going to have stuck through the one channel through their careers. They're going to be the people who have really worked on all these different channels, so they have a full 360 understanding of what merchandising is. And I think that the good news is that whereas back in the day, someone in international, someone in branch, they were considered the sort of the poor cousin of the merchandiser, couldn't quite cut it in real merchandising. These days, they're the ones that are the trailblazers. They're the ones that are in demand. And I think for that reason, can move very easily straight into core, going to go into a ladies' wear role and work on denim, going to go and work on international within menswear now. I'm going to go and do a branch merchandising piece. And I think that movement is what's going to be creating the very best merchandisers. So I hope that was useful. As ever, stay safe, stay home, try and stay sane, and look forward to seeing you again next week. Take care.